So we are, I'm Holly Richardson.
John Dougal.
John Dougal. And we've been non-traditional students. And that really just, it's really a big catch-all for anybody who's like...
Older than 24?
Yeah, about that, yeah. and maybe taking longer, like you're not getting your degree in 4 years, for example. Maybe you have to take longer. And, you know, we were speaking off air about Utah having a 3-year program now, several universities. And I think for me, that would have been a great option too, because by the time I went back for my bachelor's degree, I was 49. And I had an associate degree in nursing, totally pivoted, went towards communication. And there were some classes where it's like, well, you have to take this. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding.
Seriously. So I have no life experience or anything else that would count towards that. Well, the interesting thing, going back to the 3-year degree, this is getting a bachelor's degree in 3 years of work. There was a push in the U.S. to go to a 3-year degree right before the Great Depression.
Really?
And we kept it at 4 years as a make-work program, so professors would be employed.
Interesting.
So it's interesting that like 90 years later, we're finally back to try this concept.
It's interesting. And you know, there's also, I think, some value in saying, especially for maybe traditional college students, university students, for the 4-year degree, because you have more electives. The 3-year degree strips out some of the electives, right? And you just focus on what you want to do.
Well, and one of the other things I love about like the BYU Pathways program is they flip it. Rather than having your gen ed programs that people slog through, and many students question, why am I even doing this?
Right.
Before you get to your major, and some drop out along the way, take on debt, and then lost the opportunity to do something else because they quit. BYU Pathways flips it and gets you some certificates, gets you some
early on,
skills that boost your earning potential before you then go through your gen eds at the end of the program. But tell me about, a little more about why you went back, what degree you got.
Yeah. Sure.
We call you Dr. Holly on the Hill.
You can call me Dr. Holly on the Hill. So it still sounds funny, and I graduated with a PhD 3.5 years ago. But let me just remind our listeners that we want to know from you, is it ever too late to go back to school? We do have a few texters who already texted in. It's 57500. But one person texted in and said, I went back to nursing school at the age of 49, graduated, passed our state boards at the age of 51, currently working as an RN, starting a whole new career path into my 50s. It's never too late. Another one says it's never too late. Another one says it's never too late, but going back to school when you're older seems like a waste of money. There's ways to learn for free. There's a point to that. That is true. But I always wanted to have a bachelor's degree. So I ran for office and lost. And then I was like, fine. Then if I'm not going to be in elected office, I am going to go to school and finish my bachelor's degree.
And you had previously been in office, and this
I
was
had,
later, you were running.
This was trying to go again. Yeah, and I lost early on. It's like, hey, fine, I'm just going to go to school then, because it had already been a goal of mine to finish a bachelor's degree. So I was partway through. I already had an associate, so I knew it was probably a 2-year process. I was partway through that process, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep going. And I did an online master's degree, right? And I did it through Southern Utah University, and it was all online. I didn't even step foot on the campus until I graduated. And that was pre-pandemic. So I thought that was pretty cutting edge. I really liked it that way. And then I was partway through the master's program when my husband said to me, maybe you should get a PhD. And I'm like, no, I'm not smart enough for that. Which I understand a lot of PhD students think that. I was not alone, but I was going to get a second master's, and he just said, just go for an end degree. And so I applied to the University of Utah. They accepted me. And 4 years later, which was through the pandemic, actually, I ended up with a PhD in political science, but with an emphasis in nonprofit management and international relations.
Wow. Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. And something I never had a goal for, never anticipated until right before I was like, oh, yeah, this sounds like a good idea. I think I'll do it.
Well, there you go.
Okay, and tell me about you. So you are newly sworn in.
I'm doubly non-traditional. So
yeah.
Greg and I talked a little bit, but this is one of the degrees we didn't talk about. So coming out of school, BYU, bachelor's, master's in electrical engineering.
Oh, wow.
So I come from the high-tech sector. And then in the late 90s, I was getting more into, kind of leadership roles and managing teams. And so I went off and got an MBA. So I did a night program at BYU. It was Tuesday and Thursday nights. Did the Franklin Covey campus here in Salt Lake County, so I didn't have to drive down. I was
Yeah.
working just west of the airport,
Right.
and so it was nice and convenient. And so that's where I went back and got that MBA program. And then just recently, as you
Like
alluded to,
just recently.
literally in May, I graduated with a law degree. And this has been on the bucket list for 40 years.
Wow.
And so went back and I was doing it not really for a career pivot, but more just because it was something I always thought I was going to do. In school, I thought I might be a patent attorney.
Wow.
As I mentioned on the show on Wednesday, my grandfather was in the last group in Utah to pass the bar exam before they required a bachelor's degree.
Wow.
And then he went back basically in his 80s and got a bachelor's degree.
Wow.
And was the oldest graduate at the time at BYU. And so this going back to school later clearly is some kind of family trait. And so it was a great experience. I like to joke that in my law school program, I was not even the oldest. There were like 4 or 5 that were older than me that were coming back.
I was older than most of my professors.
Yeah. I was older than a few of my professors, younger than others of my professors, but they loved the fact that I was going back. And it's one of those things. It's a challenge. Whether it's an educational challenge or some other challenge in life, I always find you tackle those challenges. It helps you grow, it strengthens you, proves what you can do, and so that's why I always applaud those.
So you just passed the bar recently.
Passed
I know
the bar
you were.
exam.
When was that?
I took the exam July 29th and 30th. Got the score mid-September.
Wow. And so you were just barely sworn in.
Sworn
I saw.
in October 1st.
Yeah. See, so just barely.
So and,
Congratulations, Esquire. John
Yeah,
Dougal.
there
John
you
Dougal
go.
Esquire.
So I don't think it's ever too late, but it's interesting. We're living in a world in which lots of folks are questioning the value proposition of undergrad degree.
Yeah.
What is the cost? What is the value?
Right.
At a time where we also need higher education or continual learning, on-the-job training, whatever it might be, more than ever before. This isn't the type of thing where you go take the same job, like my father-in-law working for 30 years.
Right. Exactly.
You got to go because of technology, because of industry changes, so forth. You got to reskill, you got to retool, you got to learn, whether it's in a formal sense or an informal sense. I come from the world where there's continuous learning. And if you're not continually learning, you're going to be falling behind and left behind.
That's right. So not only do you stagnate, but you're right. You fall behind. And I think we see that across the country when we're talking about jobs that are disappearing. There are jobs that are being lost to AI, right? We do know that. And at the same time,
this has been the story of history.
That's
jobs
right.
that just get obsolete and
That's
they
right.
get replaced with new.
with something else, right? With something different. It used to be that you could have an entire job to be a stenographer. Now people are like, what even is that, right?
Well, how many people are really building horse buggies these days?
I know,
versus
exactly. The buggy whip,
airplanes?
right? That's exactly right. And so sometimes people double down. And we know that with industry, sometimes you double down on like blockbuster movies, right? Well, that little Netflix startup, that's a nothing, right? We don't need to worry about that little pest in the corner. And then who still exists nowadays? It's not Blockbuster.
Wow, wow. You don't have to run off to the store, get that
I know,
VHS
right?
tape. Yeah.
They just didn't keep up with the times. And I became Holly on the Hill when social media really dates me, when social media platforms began. Facebook, Twitter. I was Holly on the Hill. I'm still Holly on the Hill, but
I had a blog called Dynamic Range.
That's right. That's
So,
right. I
yeah.
remember that. And it's one of the things, like when you and I originally went to school, nobody could conceive of a thing called social media. And you can be a social media manager, you can be a social media marketer, you can be a social media whatever, right? An influencer. That was a nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you want to laugh. The research I did at BYU as a grad student was image compression. Now, when you stream YouTube or Netflix,
yeah.
it's all compressed video.
Oh yeah.
Then in the mid '90s, it was pushing data across cell phone networks. New and novel, and then intelligent
New and
transportation
novel. That's right.
systems,
That's right.
which we benefit from today.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for weighing in. And some